doing? It's Tim Manfro, aka Mortgage Manfro, and I'm here with my good friend and insurance dude, person, Saed Albasha. Basically today we're going to be talking about insurance in general, but homeowners insurance kind of, in the first and foremost. So thanks for coming by, Saed.
Man.
Appreciate
Pleasure.
you. So this is a series that we're doing called Let's Talk About, and then, something that has to do with homeownership. And the idea is that we're basically going to be covering every single, part of the transaction and making sure that, we're going deep on these types of things. So first off, just wanted to ask you, Saed, how did you get in the business?
Well, I got into business almost by accident because as soon as I graduated high school, I was looking for a job, and my cousin was working for an insurance company, and he's like, "Hey, we're hiring. So you want to come apply?" And I did, and I got the job. Oddly enough, at 18, so it was pretty wild. So I worked for an agent for 4 years. It was cool. It was just kind of paper pushing stuff, but I saw that there was a lot more money in the mortgage industry, so I did loans for 4 years. And then the market crash happened in 2007 and 8. So
right.
I decided rather than going and trying to reinvent the wheel, I went back to something that I know and I'm familiar with, and that's insurance. So I opened up my own agency in 2008.
Yeah, and your agency is located in
Glendora.
Yeah, absolutely. 2008, man, that's awesome. You've been
10
doing
years.
it for 10 years. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, survived.
So this kind of video is geared towards people who may or may not know, about homeownership. So, what do you do in the transaction? What is the role of the insurance agent?
Yeah, so my role actually comes in at the end, but it shouldn't stay at the end. We'll talk about that later. But
yeah.
My role is to basically, you found your house, you got approved for the mortgage, you're in escrow, and the escrow transaction is going and hopefully smoothly. But at the end, the escrow company and the lender need to see that the home is insured in order to close escrow.
Yeah.
So that's why I say I come in at the end, but the process needs to start at the beginning. And so the mortgage company, needs to make sure that the home is insured, because if it burns down, they have a bunch of money invested in this home, so they don't want to lose that.
Protect the lender and the homeowner.
Sure. Initially, yeah.
Okay, cool. And I mean, so, obviously when I pre-approve someone, I always go down all the different, closing costs, stuff. When I get down to the insurance, I say, hey, this is the homeowner's insurance, and, you could use whoever you want. So you can actually shop for whoever you want for your homeowner's insurance. Right. And we do recommend that you do that because that way what's out there and what options there are. So that kind of leads into what kinds of questions should you be asking, like, when you're going to get a homeowner's insurance policy, and also maybe if you already have a homeowner's insurance policy, what are some good questions?
Right. Some people already have a relationship with their agent or company, and it's good to go there. If you're looking for a new relationship, shop around. Some of the questions that I would ask in terms of what's a good question to ask a homeowner's insurance agent is, what am I covered for? Because not all policies are designed the same. Not all companies cover the same things. So what am I covered for? But even more important, what am I not covered for? And when you say...
That's something good to understand.
Yeah. If you know what you're missing from your policy, the next question is, can I add it if it's a concern of yours? And if you can't add it, you might want to go to a different company that does cover the things that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want to find out when it's too late, right? Your house burns down and they say, "Oops, you're not covered for that." And that's not when you want to find out how good your insurance policy is.
Yeah, I think asking questions up front, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I'm never going to need it,
Right.
Just get the cheapest one possible, but...
It'll never happen to me, right?
Yeah, but the second you do that, that's when something bad happens, and I think it's important to really, understand, and I think that's what's great about Saed is that, he's really going to take the time to explain everything, all the details. I feel like when people go to other companies, which I won't name, it's just like they shoot an email out, it has a number at the bottom, and people look at it, they give a thumbs up, and then, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand what all the numbers mean, just like when you're getting a mortgage and you got to look at all the numbers, you want to look at all the numbers and all the coverages and stuff on insurance policies too.
Exactly.
And someone like this and, companies like Saed's company will break that down for you.
For sure. Transparency is important. I don't want to cut you off, but transparency, being completely open and saying, this is what you have and this is what you're missing, and here's your other optional stuff you can add for an extra cost and so on. Having those kinds of conversations are critical to make sure that we design the policy to your needs. Yeah. Because your needs might be different than your neighbor's, who's maybe paying less in insurance but doesn't have as much stuff or doesn't have as big of a house or whatever it may be.
Yeah, for example, if someone owns a large amount of like jewelry or
Jewelry's a big
guns
one.
or
Yep.
or whatever. Those might not necessarily be covered. Only a certain amount of coverage would be covered from
Yeah.
a certain and if you want to get more, it's going to be more expensive. But
Exactly.
if you never say anything or no one ever asks, you might just assume that all of your stuff is covered no matter what.
Yeah.
So, what's some tips for people? Should they be taking pictures of all of their belongings, or like how do they go about that? Like, for God forbid there is something that happens to the home and stuff gets destroyed. Like, what's something that you would say to someone to do ahead of time that maybe would make it easier in the future or something like that happen?
Yeah, so the best time to take inventory is actually when you're moving. I mean, you might box up your stuff and then open it when you get to your new house and be taking out a bunch of stuff. You might have thrown some stuff away or whatever. But if you have a bunch of boxes that are labeled, you can take pictures of those boxes or just wait till you've put everything where it's supposed to be in your house. Take this wonderful invention called the iPhone whatever camera. You can shoot videos on this stuff. It's stored virtually, and walk around your house and just take, very slow, like in every room, quick little video saying, I bought this couch, I have this TV, and so on. This is a home inventory. That's kind of what you would do as far as, recognizing what you had in there.
Yeah.
Because worst case scenario, there's a fire.
Everything's gone.
Everything's gone. You're not gonna. The insurance company is gonna say, "Hey, we're gonna pay you for your stuff, but
what do you have?
Here's a notebook. Go ahead and list every item. How many pairs of shoes did you have? How many shirts? How many, whatever, like everything. How many pairs of underwear? Like all of that has value, but you won't. It's hard to remember off the top of your head.
If you have a video, at least it'll spark it, and maybe if there's any questions about whether you have like 4 Apple computers in your house or something,
Right.
there's a picture of it. You did.
Yeah,
Without having
it's
to take
proof.
up the receipts.
Right, it's proof for the insurance company that you did own it, and it's also a reminder for you to put it on that list so that you get compensated for it.
And that's a good tip for anyone that owns a house, which I gotta say I haven't done that, and I probably should. So
It's time.
It's good to think about that. So we did touch a little bit about shopping early in the insurance process. So let's say, okay, so I meet with them, they get pre-approved, they go into escrow. Like, the first call is obviously the lender, hey, real estate agent, hey. Third call should be insurance company, right? Like, let's
make sure everything is starting smoothly with the escrow process, because you might back out of escrow within the 7 days, is it?
There's different contingencies. It could be up to 17 days, 21 days.
So assuming that you're set on this house and escrow is open and now you've begun the process, you've submitted all the paperwork to the lender, the escrow. After that, you should start calling insurance companies, because early in the process, there's a lot of time to identify whether or not this house qualifies, whether you as a buyer qualify.
Yeah.
There is a qualification process. It's easier than qualifying for a loan, but it's equally important to get qualified. So the house, I've seen houses that have claims, which is considered almost like a pre-existing condition, which can disqualify you from certain companies or certain types of coverage.
Which there'll be no way to know. Like, the house looks fine. Like, something bad happened, it was fixed.
Yeah.
It's got a black mark in the insurance,
right.
whatever you call it.
Yeah, and you could argue that, hey, I didn't file that claim. I'm just buying this house new. The other guy filed the claim. Well, the house still has a claim. It's like a car that's been salvaged, been in a previous accident, has some prior damage and stuff. It can become a problem when you go get coverage if it has a prior claim. The other one is where the home is located can affect the pricing. So take the same house in one zip code and put it in another zip code, same coverage, same everything, but one of them is higher than the other because that particular zip code is higher priced because there's more claims as a whole in that zip code.
Yeah.
That's
so
part
they
of
even if it's not your specific home, it could be just the
area.
fact that other people in the area. So that's deep, man.
Yeah,
and that could really change. Could that change the cost of the insurance too?
It can, yeah. So it'll go into. I mean, you're not going to pay double or triple, but 20 to 30% difference in cost can mean throwing off the debt ratio, changing the qualifications for your loan, and things like that. So if you know that early, then you're minimizing the chances of things going haywire at the end.
Yeah, and I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it tons of times where houses have had 2-3 claims, and this insurance company won't do it. This over here is too expensive, and and then what happened was, everything got rolling on the loan, and then we kept asking for them to get the homeowners insurance quote, and it just never happened until it was like not too late, but basically to a point where it just adds extra stress, because buying a house, let's be honest, It's stressful. It's a stressful experience, like going out and doing that. Especially, not so much for us because we do it every day, but for someone that's actually purchasing the home. So the sooner you can find out about issues, the better, so you can address them. Make sure you have time to shop around, because sometimes, like I've seen, where it's a problem with one insurance company, it won't be a problem with the other.
Right.
So that's just something to think about.
Yeah, I did want to add one more thing to that too.
Yeah.
Where you're buying your home also matters, because if you're close to a hill or a brush zone, if there's a slope, if your property is on a slope line, even though your home is flat, the street is sloped, sometimes companies can have problems with that, and they might exclude certain coverage.
That's crazy.
Or even have a turn down altogether, where you can get a quote and all of a sudden you're like, oh, the price looks good, whatever, we're going with this guy. Come to find out later, that representative didn't pre-underwrite it or pre-qualify that home because he didn't check the maps and the fire lines and the zip codes. And
sometimes they require inspections too, right?
Yeah.
So, and they could decline it after that. So that's why, basically super, super important to shop for insurance early, and make sure you're doing all the things that we're talking about. So another thing I want to talk about is bundling, which we decided that was a cool word to use for it. But the bundle. But basically, it's going to be having multiple types of insurance with one company. And I'll let Saed take over on that.
Yeah, so bundling is super simple. I mean, I pride myself on offering all of our products to our clients. From a greedy perspective, of course, I make a commission on them. But from the client's perspective, no.
Don't say that.
But from a client's perspective, it's you're discounting the products that you're buying. You need homeowners insurance, you need auto insurance, you need life insurance, even if you're young. And all of these things, when bundled together, what ends up happening is you get these deep discounts and you're paying less for everything as a whole. So yeah, it might be like one company offers cheap rates with this, and I'll go to another company for cheap rates with that. And so it's inconvenient to go to multiple companies, but it's also cost effective if you go with one and we bundle everything the same under the same roof.
And I mean, from my own personal experience, when I bundled my stuff, I saw about a 30% discount, which, if we're talking, it could be a good chunk of money. And when you're going to buy a house, especially if it's your first one, every dollar counts. So if you can save money on your car insurance, then it's helping you offset some of the stuff you're paying for your mortgage. So, was there any other types of insurance that you could bundle, or is it just normally just home and auto?
So there's a lot of different types of insurance, but home and auto are the ones that are most common. Life insurance, it needs to be a part of everybody's plan.
Do you get a discount sometimes if you have a bundle under one roof? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Life insurance. Business insurance, there's two types. There's the general liability and then the workers' compensation. There's umbrella insurance, and I know I'm getting a lot of questions about umbrella. It's a popular product, but it's misunderstood. It's just basically, I'm not going to go into it, excess liability. That's a different video.
Just in case something bad happens.
But yeah, so there's that type of insurance. There's insurance for additional things like jewelry, your toys, like a boat, an RV, an off-road vehicle, things like that. So there's tons of different types of insurance.
Okay, so there's just more than just the home and auto. So that's something good to think about. One thing I've noticed that when clients come to you or other insurance companies, they will sometimes receive a discount for the type of job they have. So can you dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, so certain professions qualify for discounts that would benefit the customer just for being in that profession. So police officers, firefighters, teachers, engineers, certain types of professions. And not to say these people are better than other people, but from a company perspective, these people tend to be the more, the more desirable client, or the client who would need us more. So we're gonna go ahead and reward them.
There's some stuff behind the scenes.
There is a little bit, a little behind the scenes actions there.
Hey, but who cares if you're getting a discount? I mean, it's the least that people, companies can do for these types of professions that are, educating our youth and protecting us as police and fire and medical and all the other ones there are. Right. I'm sure you can provide you guys a list with all of them.
I have a whole list.
There's a big list of them, but we won't go through all of them. But make sure that you're asking about that. Make sure your insurance agent knows what you do, which I'm sure they normally would. But unless they're not good, they might they might not ask. So also too, let's talk about insurance as a not being like a, what do you call it?
Like a
maintenance program. Some people will get insurance and feel like that's just there to fix the house or something. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit deeper about that, like
Sure.
what your feelings are for
Sure.
insurance.
Well, insurance is meant to protect the insured from financial loss. So when we're talking financial loss, we're not talking about a couple $100. If a couple $100 is going to ruin you, you don't have any business being a homeowner. So
Yeah.
let's save up some more money first, so that you're a little more able to absorb some of that stuff.
Because there will be stuff.
There will be stuff, plumbing issues, minor upgrades, minor things like small cracks in the wall, small like plumbing issues that just backing up didn't cause any damage. So it's not a maintenance plan that will cover everything that might happen to your home. It's protection against the catastrophic things that might happen. So if you have a fire, you're talking about
Leveling your house,
fire
or a big
damage.
part of it.
Yeah, a small part of, or even like if you have a fire in one room and you're like, oh, it's just that one room, but then the smoke got into the rest of the house. That's a huge.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta
That happened
clean
to
up
my
the
aunt.
smoke. Yeah, so you
All
gotta
her
clean up.
clothes, like it was crazy.
Yeah, so it turns into a big mess. Those are the kinds of things that insurance is meant to cover. We're not going to go in and fix the $2,000 plumbing problem that might have not caused any other damage, except you have to go underground. It sucks, I get it, but that's kind of the cost of being a homeowner. Maintenance stuff comes up, but insurance, just remember, is more for the bigger catastrophic things, and some of the things that we've seen are pretty detrimental. So
And that leads me to, something to think about too for certain people, like the deductible. You have the choice of whatever deductible you want, within reason.
yeah.
And a lot of times people will shoot for like a $500 deductible or something, and it just seems like, if this is only going to be for major stuff, why have such a low deductible when you could basically move that deductible up and maybe pay less a year for insurance, or have better coverage for the same price or whatever. So that's something to think about too, just in my personal opinion. So
For sure. It does control the cost. So it's a sliding scale, or I guess a seesaw.
Yeah.
The higher deductible, the lower your cost of
So the
insurance.
same coverage for a $500 deductible versus a $2,500 deductible is going to be cheaper if you go to the $2,500 deductible.
Right.
So, another thing too, like insurance can be part of a financial plan, I know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if you could dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
So,
Insurance is actually an essential part of a financial plan, because if you have a good financial planner, they're going to put together your budget and talk about your investments and where you're allocating your funds. Part of your budget needs to be for insurance. And I know it's not the sexiest thing to talk about. I mean, insurance is not, the most exciting thing in the world. But, when I talk to people who have suffered a loss, a fire, a car accident, a tragic event in their family, things like that, and they're coming to me, and I'm coming in and going, don't worry about it, we've got you covered. It's the best feeling for me, but it's also the best feeling for the client, knowing they made a good decision in buying the insurance that they did. Conversely, if you don't make room in your budget for it, and you like just to buy nice things and not budget for insurance, catastrophes happen in your life, and then I'm getting the call that's going, why aren't I covered? And I'm saying, well, you chose not to buy this insurance, so I can't give you money for something you didn't pay for.
Yeah.
And that's not the type of conversation I like to have.
No.
But as a financial plan, you want to put together your savings account, your retirement account. You could play around with some stocks and riskier stuff if you have the money, but insurance needs to have a place in your budget, definitely.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. And this is something that we brought up when we were kind of brainstorming on this, and I thought it was kind of a cool thing. So, like, what's the most common claims that you see? I mean, this way people can kind of keep an eye out for them. So
Yeah, so the most common things we see are plumbing issues. And I bring them up a lot because I talk to my clients up front as to what is and what is not covered. So plumbing issues are just, you can't see them, right? They're behind the wall. You buy a house, you look at it, you're like, oh, it looks clean, looks great, let's buy it. But underneath, there could be problems. So a couple things to look for. If you have huge trees on the property, especially in the front yard, your drainage system goes directly under your house to the front yard and onto the street where there's a sewer. So if there's a huge tree there, I would ask for an additional kind of, inspection, or pay for it yourself. I mean, it'd be worth it to just send a camera down there and see, are there any roots that went under there? And
because if something eventually gets blocked by that,
it goes backwards, and that's not what you want in your house. So plumbing issues are the most common things I see, but it's also good to ask, when was the last time the plumbing was redone in the house? If the home was built in the 40s or 50s and the plumbing's never been done, it's not a bad house. It's just to say you might be wanting to ask more questions, or take a look.
Make sure it's gonna last until you can upgrade it.
Yeah, exactly, and just kind of put aside money because that's going to end up needing repair soon.
Or maybe do some maintenance on it. Like I've seen where people will rebuild just one part at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, as they have money, or even just like I've heard stories of insurance claims where just the part where the sink hooks up to the actual piping that broke.
Yeah.
Like a $20 part.
Yeah.
Breaks and then the whole house floods.
Yeah.
Or the toilet overflows, or you just never know. But so the plumbing's the most common.
Plumbing's the most common. A couple other things to ask for is when was the last time the wiring was done in the house? Because again, older wiring might be a fire hazard.
Yeah.
So it's something that you might want to look into in upgrading. And lastly, the roof, because the roof is exposed to the sun all day, every day, 365. I mean, you don't cover that. So as rain comes down, as sun beats on it, most roofs are built to withstand 30 to 40 years.
Yeah.
And some last a lot longer. But at the same time, it will wear and tear out. And so
Parts of it might.
Insurance companies don't cover wear and tear. No insurance company covers it. So if your roof is just getting old and is cracking or peeling or lifting and water's starting to get into there, your insurance company's not going to cover it.
They're going to cover if a tree falls on it or something.
Right.
That's about it.
Something big or catastrophic happens.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, I mean, that's something to think about. And basically, I think that wraps up, everything you need to know to start for about homeowners insurance and insurance in general. Saeed's going to be a great resource for you guys to reach out to with any questions. He's someone who would be happy to look at any existing insurance policy. And he's the type of guy that'll say, hey, look, like, you got a sweet deal right here. I hear it all the time. I mean, it's people go to him, and for some reason or another, it's they got a good setup, and he'll tell them honestly. The other way around, if it's not, he'll say, hey, you might want to take a look at this, or this is what we can do. So on good, or just general questions if you guys are buying a house, or have clients that are. So I want to say thanks for taking time to hang out with us, and hope this information was great. We'll see you guys soon.